said I oppose fracking. Show the tape. Put it on your website. Put it on the website.
Live from Clark Studios in Rochester, New York. Broadcasting around the world. You're listening to You Made It Political, where the voice of the keyboard warrior is finally heard and the arguments presented are put to the political test. And now, here's your host, Matt Clark.
What an emotional roller coaster ride 2020 has been, and it doesn't stop. Please, somebody get me off this hellish roller coaster of a year we've had for 2020. Just when you thought we were going to have a nice, relaxing Christmas, not only does something blow up the AT&T building in Nashville, but Trump comes out last night. I couldn't believe it. I was driving, listening to Fox News. I know, not a big fan of Fox News. Most of my viewers are, but I tend to like listening to my Tucker Time, a few Sean Hannity, and the likes of Levin. So I'm listening to Fox News last night, and all of a sudden, while driving, I hear that Trump signs the bill. I couldn't believe it. And if I didn't hear it on mainstream media, I would have written it off, the whole thing, as fake news, even though that's pretty much what mainstream media is these days. But it's Fox, and they tend to be a little bit biased towards the right, so I believed it. But I had to pull over, I had to go to my phone, and I had to check my 5 million messages that were coming in, and yes, I heard correctly, Trump signs the bill. After everything we've been put through, I couldn't believe my ears, especially seeing that he said he was not going to sign that piece of garbage unless Congress went back to the drawing board, cut the pork, and increased payments up to $2,000. But here we are. Not sure who got to him, whether it was Lindsey Graham, who happened to go golfing with Trump this weekend. Surprise, surprise. Since when does Lindsey Graham really care about golf outings with Trump? But there he was over Christmas weekend down in Florida, golfing with President Donald Trump. I have a feeling Lindsey got into his ear, planned the guilt trip on him, and there we have it. Just a few hours later, a bill is signed. Let's head over to the Keyboard Warrior cam and listen to what the Keyboard Warriors have to say about this horrendous situation and whether something different is up here. After all, Trump doesn't tend to play all of his cards in one hand. So let's see what's really going on. Let's head over to the Keyboard Warrior cam now and take a look. So a little bit of a preface here for those of you who aren't too aware of what's just happened. I know most of you guys are, but some aren't quite up to speed on the chain of events that have just happened. So we have this bill. We have this $2.4 or $2.3 trillion bill. Okay, the bill is split up into two parts. There was a lot of confusion before that the bill was all one big $2.3 trillion COVID relief bill. That's not the case. It confused a lot of people. The bill was split up into two parts. So we've got the $1.4 trillion government spend bill. This bill essentially keeps the government open. That's the whole point of this bill. The government needs money to operate. Therefore, they came out with this bill. Over the next year, this is what we need for the government to function. That includes everything from politicians' paychecks to federal employees to national museums and other public federal facilities that stay open and manned all year. So we've got this $1.4 trillion government spend bill that a lot of crafty, sneaky things were stuffed into. Foreign aid in the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars and other fluff and pork that we as Americans don't really think are necessary, especially in a time where there are so many starving people on the streets. So here you got this $1.4 trillion government spend bill. Then we have the separate COVID relief bill, which was absolutely held hostage to the government spend bill. Why did it take everybody this long to get this deal done? After all, we've been working on this bill since July. Here's the real deal. The likes of Pelosi and other Democrats didn't really want the bill to come to a vote until after the election. Understandably, they didn't want to give Trump any options whatsoever to look like a hero. And that's exactly what he has looked like over the past few weeks. He said, I'm not signing this, the $600 piece of junk for the American people. We need to see at least $2,000. He went above and beyond that even, and he got Congress to agree to things like better income protection for small businesses and some other small business goodies that they really need in order to survive this pandemic. So he's gone above and beyond, but the Democrats didn't really want anything to do with having this thing signed before the election. Hence the reason it took so long. So finally the election's over. Biden gets voted in. Oh, now we're all of a sudden in a hurry to get this bill done. Well, it's almost too little too late. So now we're asking Congress we're asking lawmakers to review this bill that Congress put forward to Trump a few days ago in just a matter of hours. I mean, this 5,000 plus page bill, you have hours, lawmakers, to review it and let us know what you think before we send it over to Donald Trump. So the whole thing was just impossible and a complete shit show to begin with. But here we are. So $900 billion is part of the COVID relief package. It goes to Trump. Trump says, no way am I signing this. Not happening. Go back to the drawing board. Let's amend this thing. Let's get $2,000 per American, $4,000 per couple. It's still chump change in the grand scheme of things, but it's a little bit more of a respectable amount. He throws it back. We think there's going to be a lot of back and forth. We think there's going to be another couple weeks of negotiating. We think that Congress is going to now go amend the bill. And then all of a sudden, he comes out Sunday night and he says he signed it. Okay, very weird. He signs it under the condition that Congress would, in fact, vote the increase. I was outraged by this decision. I almost feel like, and I hate to say this, I almost feel like it was a cop-out. I almost feel, as much as I love Trump, I almost feel like he's passing the buck here. As if Congress doesn't sign it, then it's almost like he has somebody to blame. And that's not like Trump. I'm not sure who got to him. Because since when has Donald Trump ever cared what Congress thought about anything? 4 years of I don't give an F. And now all of a sudden, he cares so much about what Congress thinks. So what's the real agenda here? What's really going on behind the scenes? Because this whole thing was just so unlike him. Trump plays to the base of his followers. His followers are screaming, veto the bill, do not sign it. This is a joke. Cut the fat. But there's another thing that Trump plays to, something above his base, something that every politician knows they'll get him on, and that is his ego. His ego gets the best of him, and I have a feeling while Lindsey Graham was down in Florida over Christmas weekend on their little golf outing, Lindsey Graham played on Trump's ego and got him to think, listen, this could be your legacy. This could be your parting triumphant move to the American people to prevent a government shutdown, and we promise you we'll vote the increase. Let's just get the deal signed now. It's all left to chance now. The vote goes down this evening. Congress and or Senate and the House are going to meet. But here's where I have a few issues. A lot of the senators, or a lot of the Republican senators, don't want this bill. They don't think, or don't want to increase the payment. They don't think a lot of these high earners deserve the $2,000 payment. And I have to be honest, I agree with them. I don't think this payment needs to go to people or couples who are making in the realms of $140,000. I mean, what does a couple making $140,000 a year need a $2,000 payment for? And I said this on my live a few days ago. I said, I'm all for people getting this COVID bonus pay. I'm all for it. But I would rather us lower that income amount way down, so the people who really need it get more. That was my argument. I didn't want to get rid of it, but I wanted more people who suffered so badly to get this check rather than people who make $75,000 a year or $140,000 per couple. I just don't see that they really need an extra. Well, it was $600 at the time, and now $2,000. So what you're going to have is you're going to have Democrats like Bernie Sanders saying, give them the money. Well, yes. I mean, someone with a socialist agenda like that is always going to think like that. After all, look at Canada. They feed them $2,000 a month or whatever they're getting per month to feed their socialist agenda. They're going to get that money back in the form of higher taxes, and that's why Canada has a much higher living situation or expenses than we do here in the United States of America. So there is no such thing as a free lunch. But here we are. Now, you've got Republican senators who aren't going to vote this thing in. They're going to say, we do not think individuals who earn north of 70 grand a year or couples who earn $140,000 a year, we don't think they deserve it. So what are they going to do? They're just going to straight up vote no. Well, now we've lost. Trump has lost all of his leverage by signing this bill and hoping for a Hail Mary this evening. What he should have done was vetoed the bill. Veto the bill, no, cut the pork. Democrats aren't going to cut the pork. Why would they do that? They are adamant on sending this money overseas. So the only way that they're going to go along with this entire thing is if Democrats cut the fat. Well, if Democrats don't cut the fat, then you're going to have the GOP senators saying, well, we don't want to increase the payment because it's going to send us further in debt. So if I was a betting man, I'd probably have to put my money on the fact that they're not going to increase the $600 payment to $2,000. I don't see it happening. I think too many of the GOP senators are upset with the fact that we're giving too many Americans who are undeserving of this $2,000 payment. I think they're going to vote that down. Whereas if we said, hold on, let's go back to the drawing board, amend this COVID relief bill from maybe an income of $75,000 to maybe people who make less than $50,000 or $40,000 or people who've completely lost everything this year. Let's give them $3,000 each and not give everybody who makes over X amount of money anything. Now we're onto something, and this is where maybe these same GOP senators who want nothing to go further into debt would have agreed, because we're taking money away from the wealthy, or at least those who make enough to support themselves and don't need this payment, and we're giving that amount of money to the people who really, really deserve it. So I don't think we have time, obviously, to amend this bill. We're rushing it to a vote this afternoon, and I'm not banking on it getting passed. I don't think it's going to. Let's take a look what the keyboard warrior have to say about this entire thing. So here we see Fox News. The House of Representatives on Monday will vote on a bill to send $2,000 stimulus checks to Americans in lieu of the $600 checks included in the coronavirus stimulus and government funding package, signed Sunday night. He absolutely signed it. I know there's a lot of controversy out there. Oh, well, he's going to redline certain issues and he's going to pull some sneaky moves that many people don't know are coming. I don't think any of that's going to happen. I'm sick of the games, to be honest. He should have just straight up vetoed the bill. So here we go. Let's take a look at some of the comments. Mark says, vote it out unless the fat's been trimmed. No money going overseas and only U.S. citizens, nothing for illegals. And I think that's exactly what it's going to happen. I think they're going to vote this thing out tonight unless they trim the fat. If they vote it out, we're back to square one. We'll see what happens from then on there. Shauna says, so I read somewhere it said they don't want to raise it to 2,000 because it would put us even more in debt. There are $700 billion being thrown away to other countries. How does that even make sense? This is insane how much money we are giving to other countries. It's outrageous that we are considering sending money in the tune of $700 million to Sudan for economic support. This is what some of this government spend bill involves. This is what some of this foreign aid entails. You have things like $505 million to restore Central American infrastructure. Since when do we care so much, or why do we care, I guess is the real question, about sending over $500 million to restore Central American infrastructure? Have you guys seen what our own country looks like? It could use a tune-up itself. I mean, our infrastructure is hideous in most parts of this country. If you just take a drive through America, you'll see a lot of the highways need repairing. A lot of our buildings, a lot of our cities, a lot of our towns have been decimated by the pandemic and the financial collapses over the last decades. They need the real tune-up. Yet we're going to sit here and chuck $505 million over to Central America. We're going to renovate or upgrade the Smithsonian for $1 billion. $1 billion Smithsonian project. That's how much they want to give to the Smithsonian. Or the Natural Museum of History, hundreds of millions of dollars. Why do we have to worry about any of that right now when poverty continues to increase in this country? When unemployment is at all-time highs, when state governors continue to lock us down? Why do we care about putting together a $1.4 trillion package, of which hundreds of billions goes overseas, goes to everybody but the American people? And now, because of all of this fat that we've been thrown in, or that the Democrats have stuffed into the bill, holding hostage the COVID bill, now we're in a position tonight where GOP senators might say, our hands are tied, we cannot sign this thing. It's putting America into too much debt. It's going to start to get financially catastrophic soon. What's the media going to do? They're going to turn around and they're going to blame the whole thing on the Republicans. For once, they're not going to blame it on Trump. And I don't think he deserves the blame, but he's almost kind of passed the buck here to the Republicans and Democrats to duke out. I don't think it was a real fair move. I think he should have put his foot down, and I think he should have stood his ground and made them amend this thing until they got it right. Then by the time it goes to a vote, it's just a done deal. Here's a couple other issues I have with this bill. If we take a look at what the money's for, the COVID relief bill I'm referring to, if we take a look at what this money is for, everybody's going to win here. Everyone except the self-employed entrepreneur. The self-employed entrepreneur throughout this pandemic has gotten the short end of the stick. They have been beat up and lost everything, and there's been zero relief for the self-employed business owner. What do I mean by the self-employed business owner? I don't mean small businesses. There's a very big difference here. Small businesses can range anywhere from 2 employees to 50 employees. They have a lot of employees. They have infrastructure to pay for. Small businesses will get this income protection relief for them. So a pizza shop, for example, with 10 employees, they will get the money they need to pay their employees to see them through this. What about the hairdressers? What about the hair salons? What about the one-man agencies or service providers who have no employees, who have been decimated by this pandemic? They receive nothing. They don't even get unemployment, which, again, according to the COVID relief bill, is going to be $300 extra a month. That $300 extra dollars a week, in addition to your unemployment check to begin with, that's survivable money. It's not life-changing money. It's not meant to be. It's survivable money. So if somebody's making $500 in unemployment a week and they get their $300 COVID bonus unemployment pay, there's $800 a week. That's not bad to get you through this pandemic. But the self-employed individual doesn't get any of it because they weren't employed in the first place. You can't claim unemployment if you didn't have a job. Being self-employed is not considered having a job. So you are totally on your own on that one. So the only thing that these self-employed individuals can look forward to is a $2,000 COVID one-time bonus payout. That's it. Or a couple $4,000 plus a child maybe. That's all they're getting. They're not seeing unemployment. They're not seeing payment protection income payout. They get nothing. If you think about it, there's a lot of salespeople out there who work for themselves. They get nothing because they don't fall in the definition of a small business who will get this type of income protection. The real issue this country continues to face, and everybody's so distracted by free handouts, which I call socialist crack money, is that we need to get back to work. We need to open up this economy. We need to stop acting like little beggar children, anxiously waiting for our $2,000 and open the damn economy up. Open up the country and get back to work as the old normal used to be. Forget this new normal BS. Let's open it back up and get back to work. And if any of you think that the vaccine just a couple months away is going to do this, you're sadly mistaken, because even Pfizer has just come out and admitted that they don't even know if this is going to stop the vaccine or the virus from being transmitted. Just because I get the flu vaccine doesn't mean I'm not going to get the flu. It certainly doesn't mean I'm not going to transmit it. So COVID is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. We're going to have to learn to live with it. Yes, at some point we'll get herd immunity, but we need to get back to work now. This begging and fighting over crumbs to the American people is a joke, and this is not what our democracy is about. This is America, for Christ's sake, or at least I thought it was. Let's head over back to the Keyboard Warrior Cam and take a look at some other comments on what the American people have to say about whether Congress is going to vote to pass the increase later this evening. Lorraine says the Democrats got what they wanted. Don't expect to get the 2,000. Again, Trump should not have signed this bill. It's all down to a gamble at this point. It's all down to chance. He shouldn't have signed it. So Karen brought up a good point. She raises the Impoundment Control Act of 1974, which a lot of people think is the real hidden agenda here. For those of you who aren't aware of the Impoundment Control Act of 1974, it technically allows Trump to hold the funds to do what he wants with for an extra 45 days. I assume that's while they work out the kinks here, hence the reason they're calling it redlining certain issues. So there is this Control Act, which gives the president authority to either hold on to the funds, defer payments, get rid of the payment altogether or the payment plan, or delay them. So Karen says President Trump just invoked the Impoundment Control Act of 1974 while signing the COVID bill, allowing him to redline areas that must be addressed. So it's kind of like a delay clause, if you will. It allows them to continue to amend this thing while still preventing a government shutdown and getting the guaranteed 600 out. It also gives him the opportunity to still cut out the fork if we don't pass this increase tonight, if he in fact invokes the Impoundment Control Act. So what happens is this sends it back to Congress, forcing them to either repeal 230, cut out the wasteful spending, or add the 2K. It essentially gives the president the power to do what he wants anyway, if he can in fact invoke this act. This is a virtually unknown law and has taken Congress by surprise. It also signals its intent to invoke other laws in the incoming weeks. The Senate will start the process that increases checks to 2K, repeals Section 230, starts an investigation into voter fraud per President Trump's red lines under the Impoundment Control Act of 1964. This is why I started the show by saying, is there a real hidden agenda here? What's Trump really up to? Because it's just not like him to care what Congress or the House thinks about anything. It's not like him to rush a decision like this. It makes me wonder, what ulterior motives does he really have here? Does he really care if Congress doesn't vote for the increase? Is he going to get his way anyway by invoking the Impoundment Act? And does that also lead to further investigations being allowed in election fraud? So there's a lot that we're going to see unfold here over the next few days. It almost looks like every move that he has executed over the last few weeks has been all a part of a very calculated strategy that we'll soon find out exactly how it all plays out. Sharon says, Nancy just wants that 1 hour when she can feel like president. Ego trip. She really should have worked to got this deal done before Trump or before the election. And I feel that she deliberately and intentionally sabotaged the entire negotiation process. And now that their boy has been elected, they're all happy to start making deals, push this stuff through, but only at the expense of all the foreign aid that's been thrown in. Look at Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer came on and said, we're ready to do this deal. Come on. We want to give the American people their $2,000. Of course they do, because the Democrats fuel a socialist left agenda. This is what progressive and socialist movements entail: feeding the American people more socialist crack. So I'm not surprised that Chuck Schumer is sitting there with a big fat smile on his face saying, here, take the money, here's some more crack. Then they're going to want more. We're going to have to pay it back in higher taxes. There's always an ulterior motive to getting things for free. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Charles says it's still a shame that the Democrats still hold American hostage with the foreign money to their overseas friends or nothing for Americans. And we just tackled that. We said that this whole bill, first of all, why do we have to lump these two bills together? Let the government shut down. Do you think I care if the government goes without pay for a few months or weeks, God forbid, when the American peoples have lost their businesses, when they are begging for food, when they're starving, when they can't buy Christmas presents for their kids? Do you think the American people really care if the Smithsonian gets its $1 billion? Do we really care if Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer get paid? Is this really why Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham pressured Trump into signing this bill so they can all have a Merry Christmas? Is this the real motive? Just sign it, Trump, sign it so we can all get paid, and then we'll give you our word, we'll increase that payment. Maybe. But if we don't, sorry, the bill's already signed. So for those of you who think that Trump's got a hidden agenda here, we better hope, for all of our sakes, that you're right. Let's see what else the other keyboard warrior camera comments have to say about whether Congress is going to pass this bill tonight. Personally, I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to vote the increase. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. But I just feel like there are too many Republican senators who are going to shoot this thing down because they're not happy with all the crap that's been stuffed into the government spend bill. Leanna says, if it means that foreign countries still get that outrageous amount of money, I hope they don't sign it. No more money to foreign countries till all legal American citizens in America are bailed out, back to work, and taking care of their families. If people are sitting on their butts and waiting a handout and continue being generational welfare recipients, wanting working people to fund their laziness, they deserve zero. Don't care who doesn't like it. There are lots of people in need who are physically unable to work. That is who deserves welfare. That's a phenomenal comment. I couldn't agree with Leanna anymore. This has got to be, I'm giving this comment of the day. Comment of the day goes to you, Leanna. She's absolutely right. If it means stuffing the bill with all that foreign aid while so many Americans suffer, then see, here's the thing. Trump already signed it. So I'm not sure what there is to challenge at this point. If they don't vote the increase, I guess it could go back to Trump, and he still does have to put a final signature on things, in which case he could turn around and say no. So I do think they need to trim the fat. I think they need to get rid of all the crap. I think we need to go back to taking care of the American people first. I think we need to go back to America first, and then worry about whether Central America is going to be able to pay for their highways later. Because as far as I'm concerned, the last people on earth that need any money is anybody except for the American people. It's a very sad situation that we find ourselves in. The fact that so many have lost their jobs, their livelihoods, their businesses. And we have people like Governor Cuomo coming online this morning during his ridiculous press briefing that I don't know why anybody watches, because he just sounds like an absolute moron for 45 minutes. He comes online and he says, I had a very good Christmas. Santa was very good to me. Who the hell wants to hear that right now? Is this guy completely lost his mind? Is he so far removed from reality that he has absolutely no idea how badly his constituents are suffering? And he comes online this morning and says, I hope you all had a great Christmas. I know I did. Santa took care of me really well, treated me really well, probably a lot more than I deserve. If this guy gets reelected in 2022, then New York, you deserve the punishment you've just been gotten, or just been had. Because it is up to us to keep this guy in power. Similarly, it's up to us to remove him. And personally, I think the campaign needs to start right now to get rid of these Democratic governors who have locked us down, continue to take their pay, continue to give them raises, while their constituents suffer, while they close their businesses, ruin their lives, destroy their families. These people, a lot of them, are never going to rebound. Let's take a look at a couple more keyboard warriors and what they have to say about the ridiculousness of both the bill and Trump signing the bill last night. Tom Wilkins says, GOP Congressman Pete King. This is what he said. This is what Congressman Pete King says. Let me state this as unequivocally as I can. Every item which President Trump objected in the COVID omnibus legislation was specifically requested by the Trump administration. You got that? Every item. That included aid to Egypt, Pakistan, Burma, Sudan, and Central America, and funding for the Smithsonian. This certainly throws a spanner in the works. So you got GOP Congressman Pete King claiming that every item which President Trump objected in the COVID omnibus legislation was specifically requested by the Trump administration. Very interesting comment. I don't have enough knowledge on the situation to comment myself on it, but it's very interesting that GOP Congressman Pete King has actually accused Trump of requesting all of these into the bill. I'd love to know your guys' thought. Drop comments below if you have anything to say about this. We'll have to further investigate it and research it even more. We'll end with our final keyboard warrior comment. Lori says, must have been the deal. You sign, we will discuss. Let's see if he gets stabbed in the back yet again. After all, Nancy is the one who's spoken about the children going hungry many times and the American people needing help. Step up, the Nancy. What on earth are we going to do, even if we do get this $2,000 payment? This is the least of our problems. The pandemic doesn't end because we got thrown a couple grand. Our mortgages still need to get paid. Our bills need to get paid. We still need to feed our children. What happens to all those people who have lost everything? What are they going to do after their $2,000 is spent, which, by the way, is a single mortgage payment? What about the people who are behind on rent? Which, yes, I know that the COVID relief bill does now include an extension of the eviction freeze and money to help people catch up on rent. But again, if you think about everybody who wins here, I wouldn't really call it winning, because as a country, we are still suffering so badly. Winning is opening the country up so we can stop worrying about $2,000. So we can stop worrying about who's going to help me back pay my rent. So we can stop worrying about catching up on our mortgage. Winning is going back to pursuing the American dream, which has been 100% removed from all of us right now. There is zero chance of any of us pursuing the American dream because our government has robbed us of that opportunity. They have robbed us of the opportunity the second they locked us down. 2020 has been nothing but disastrous, and I'm afraid 2021 isn't going to be any better unless we nip this in the bud right now, lift the lockdown, stop giving a crap who's going to give us our next handout, get back to work and hustle and win the American way. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure hosting You Made It Political. I really appreciate your time, and I will see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. here in Clark Studios. Thank you so much. Have a great, wonderful rest of the day.
Thanks for listening.